Right now on Upfront.
Wisconsinites speak.
80% of Wisconsinites wanted that deal to pass.
The new poll on the failed tax relief deal, and now the continued fallout as attention turns to November.
At the end of the day, this failed.
The 15 Senate Democrats and 3 Republicans killing the deal altogether, defending their votes right here.
I think it was a failed leadership on all 3 fronts.
And now this Sunday, the response. Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, who helped negotiate the deal, is here. His first interview since the deal imploded in the Senate. And Charles Franklin on the implications of that new poll.
Then, battle for the first. Just hours until nomination papers and signatures are due, the Democrat declaring himself the primary frontrunner to take on Republican Congressman Brian Stile. Democrat Mitchell Berman is here. And The Hero Next Door, the new book highlighting stories of American warriors and their families.
These are really the 9/11 generation of warriors.
ABC News Chief Global Affairs Correspondent Martha Raddatz with us just moments away.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and Political Director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. The fallout sure continuing this weekend over the failed tax relief deal. The Marquette Law School poll showing 80% of Wisconsinites saying lawmakers should have passed the bill.
The $1.8 billion deal using the state's projected surplus, negotiated by Democratic Governor Tony Evers and Republican leaders, would have delivered rebate checks, no tax on tips or overtime, and invested hundreds of millions of dollars in schools to lower property taxes and increase special education funding.
The bill passed the State Assembly but failed in the Senate after all 15 Senate Democrats and 3 Republicans voted no. Republican State Senator Chris Capica, one of those no votes, right here last week. Did anyone in Republican leadership conduct a vote count before this deal was announced publicly?
Absolutely not. There was no vote count taken at any point in time up until probably the Monday before they started pinging people. And I think what happened was there were a couple of leaders, both in the Assembly and the Senate, along with the governor, who said, "Oh, we'll just get it done and we'll just push it to the floor and they'll vote for it." I think it was a failed leadership on all 3 fronts. All 3 leaders in the situation didn't. Maybe it's because they're all leaving office. I don't know, but they did not work like they should have as leaders.
Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos negotiated the deal. He joins us now. Speaker, welcome back to the show. Good to see you.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
Let's just start with your reaction to Senator Capica.
Well, I was a little surprised because, number one, Senator Capica was one of the ones who pushed the hardest to have rebates. And my understanding is he told his caucus if rebates were included, he could support the deal. Well, rebates were included, and somehow he changed his mind. Now, my understanding is from other sources that he spent most of the day when we were trying to get the votes to work together. He didn't reply to the text messages I sent or the request that I had to meet with him saying, "What do you need?" And I guess that's because I've learned he was actually with the Democrats, caucusing with them and spending time with them, convincing them not to vote for the bill. So if you're a Republican from the most Republican district in the state, and you spend all of your time working with Democrats to kill the tax rebates and the tax reform that we had, I think most people in your district would be pretty frustrated.
Take us back. Before this deal was announced publicly, I mean, were you assured, was the assumption that all the votes were there to pass this through both chambers?
Yeah, because again, we all came to the table with things that we said our caucus needed, right? The governor said, look, I need to make sure we have funding for schools. We did that. He wanted to make sure we had hopefully some funding for property tax relief, as did Assembly Republicans. We were in the same spot. We wanted no tax on tips and overtime. That was in the bill. And then ultimately the Senate said our number one priority to make sure we have enough votes is to do some kind of a rebate where the money goes directly back to the people who pay taxes. Okay, so we did that. So it was really each person brought to the table things that their caucus or their interests said they wanted to have on the table. And it's pretty easy to explain. You know, remember last week we had this little prop that Senator Capping had? He had dollar bills. I have actually $100 bills because the first $100 would be the money that goes back into the pockets of people through no tax on tips and overtime. The average person in Wisconsin who's on overtime earns somewhere around $300 in savings by the bill that we passed. We had $300 in property tax relief for people all across Wisconsin who actually would be able to have more money in their pocket. And we would have also had at least a $300 rebate. So while Senator Capping had talked about the dollars that he kept in Madison, we wanted to make sure that everybody got real money. Money for overtime, $300, money for property tax tax relief, $300, and money to be able to have a rebate. We're talking about real money that would have helped people. Look, I still think we can get it done. I think that we should go back in. I've asked the governor's office to try to have us get another attempt to do it. Senate Democrats, hopefully, when they look at this poll and realize, look, we can't even get people in Wisconsin to agree what day of the week it is. And if 80% of the people say this deal should have been passed, let's give them some confidence that government can actually get things done to help real people in real time. And let's come back and do it in June. We can get it done.
Before November?
Yeah, let's do it now.
How realistic is that?
Well, the Assembly will come back in. I can tell you right now, we are ready to go. I've talked to our leadership team. We want to get this deal done. I reached out to the governor's office. I have not heard back, I'll be honest, about making sure that we could come back in. But let's put some pressure on these politicians to get it done. Why would we wait until November when most people are suffering right now?
Senator Kabaka said 0% chance last week.
Well, I understand why somebody who wants to keep the money in Madison wouldn't want to come back. But if you look at where his constituents are in his district, why wouldn't they want to say no tax on tips on overtime, property tax relief for that's real, and a rebate check in your hands to be able to spend on you and your family, not keeping it in Madison earning interest?
Who do you blame on killing this deal?
Oh, there's no doubt it's the 3 Senate Republicans, right? They were the ones who should have gotten this deal done. They were the ones who said this is what we had to have to be able to get the deal done. And then look, Senate Democrats have an almost equal amount. I mean, they're in the minority. They're kind of irrelevant. They work really hard at being irrelevant. And this is the time that they prove themselves the most where, look, they were a no. Any one of them could have stepped forward and said, look, I'm going to do what's in the best interest of the state. Look, they say they want tax relief. That's what they're telling us they're going to do if they're ever in charge. Well, here's a real chance negotiated by your governor to have the largest investment in schools in a generation, right, for special ed, and a rebate back to people who pay income taxes. Most people are going to be on the lower income spectrum that actually would feel the most relief. And then you add on top of it property tax relief and funding for schools. And don't forget, we put in this deal funding for disabled veterans and disaster assistance as extra things because those are the priorities that we saw. So look, this is not some kind of a partisan package. It should easily pass. We don't want to just walk away and say because they said no, we're never going to try again. I hope we will.
What role did Tom Tiffany have in this deal not passing?
To be honest, very minor. Look, I think Tom Tiffany should have said yes, but I understand his perspective, right? He wants to give it all back. That's what I would prefer too. But in a world where we have a Democrat governor and a Republican legislature, you have to find a way to get to the middle. And look, this deal, 80% of the funding was going to be in some kind of relief for taxpayers, either funding for property tax relief in schools, a rebate check, or no tax on tips and overtime. 20% was going to be increasing funding for schools. I feel like if 80% of a compromise is on tax relief, that's one that any Republican should be able to be supportive of. Look, 100's better, but 80 is not bad.
The governor went pretty hard after Senate Democrats when they all voted no in our interview after the deal. Did the governor's office come to the table in this deal as well in terms of negotiations?
I mean, look, obviously anybody who watches this knows, like, I didn't vote for Tony Evers. I'm not his biggest fan. But in this one circumstance, he did a really good job. He sat down, he negotiated in good faith. We came to a compromise where everybody got what they thought was in the best interest of the people that they were most worried about. We were focused on taxpayers, they were focused on schools, but we both agreed that the other's priorities were important. So look, he delivered, right? That he said that I think I can get this, to get some Democrats to vote for it. He did in the Assembly, but for whatever reason, Senate Democrats said we're going to play politics with it, right? I mean, Assembly Republicans and the Democrats kind of went along and said this is a good deal. Now we just need some Senate Democrats to actually show some leadership. If they say they want to be in charge, well, it means making hard decisions and times when you really have to step up. So they still have a chance.
Senate Democrats have voiced concern over the possible $3 billion deficit with this plan, but that really kind of factors in no economic growth over the next couple of years. But are Senate Democrats being the ones fiscally responsible in this situation?
No, I mean, here's the crazy thing, Jaron. I mean, look, the budget that we passed last time had a sizable surplus. The surplus actually grew by $1.5 billion in January. And then it grew again right before we passed the bill by another $300 billion. So the budget that we passed versus where the budget is now, the only money that we're giving back are the new revenues that we didn't even expect when we passed the budget last time. So we are right on track with being fiscally responsible. Only one time in the past 30 or 40 years have we not had revenue growth, and that was in the 2009 recession. No one predicts that's going to happen. Every budget that we pass is based on projected revenues and projected expenditures. We've been super fiscally prudent, which is why we have these surpluses over time. We're not spendthrifts. So look, the fact that Senate Democrats who wanted to have much higher structural deficits, much bigger tax increases with the proposals they offered last year, they don't have a whole lot of credibility in my mind, especially when you have a Democratic governor who is saying this is a good deal for everybody.
Republican Assembly Speaker Robin Vos, Speaker, like always, thank you.
I appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Let's bring in Charles Franklin, director of the Marquette Law School poll. Charles, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So we mentioned that 80% of Wisconsinites wanting this deal to pass. What are your big takeaways from this poll?
The number one is how even that support is across party, across ideology, and across region of the state. With Republicans at 77% thought the bill should pass, with independents 81%, and with Democrats 82%. So you've got strong support there. And liberals and conservatives are virtually identical, with 78% of both groups supporting the bill.
Charles, we just heard Speaker Vos say he wants to attempt another vote even this summer. I guess we'll see whether that happens or not. But respondents were pretty clear. They did not want lawmakers to wait until next year to use this surplus. Even now, as we're hearing some of these lawmakers justify their no votes and the reason behind it.
Yeah, we told people that the people who were doubtful about the bill were concerned about a future budget deficit, and that this, of course, is a projected surplus, not an actual surplus at this point. Even with that information, 69% still said it should pass now. Only 21% said it should wait a year or wait until next year. And so that's down 11% from the overall support, but it's still more than 2/3 who say, even with the budget uncertainty for next year, they want these benefits to come now.
Charles, we asked you last weekend ahead of the polls released about potential implications ahead of November. What does that look like now based on the data?
Yeah, I think in the data itself, 25% said this would be very important for their votes in the fall. However, I want to caution, it is still a ways off from the election, and I don't know that this particular vote will be the key issue. But I think we can absolutely bet that property taxes and school funding are going to be high on the agenda for the fall campaign for both parties. And so I think the underlying issues will stay with us. Whether this vote itself becomes an issue of finger pointing about who was for it and who against, I don't know about that at this stage.
Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin, who's out with a national poll this upcoming week as well. Charles, we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, the battle for the 1st congressional, the Democrat who says he's the one to take on Congressman Brian Stile. Next.